here without her. Real quick. Okay. Okay. They can hear me. Okay. Sorry, you guys can hear me. Hi, I'm here for LEAH. Welcome to the League of Extraordinary Atheists for Humanism, where we attempt to apply logic and reason to religion and politics. I'm here without my wonderful, beautiful co-host, Christy Santiago, because she is not well today. She's pretty sick. I'm here. We're going to go through a little bit of news, and we're also going to do a little bit of a political compass test. I thought would be kind of fun. One for me, two for everyone else. So actually, I have the link down yonder in the doodly-doo. Make sure I can see it. And if you don't want to open it up here, actually, do I see it? Not sure if we have it. Well, I'm going to post it either way in the live chat. So it's right here. So you guys can open that up if you guys have tabs if you're on the computer, or just open up on your phone. I think you can do it there as well. You guys can follow along with me while we do that test. A few other things that we'll be covering tonight. I'll be briefly going over the newer stimulus bill that they're trying to pass, or they passed part of it today here in the U.S. And something going on with the Sioux tribe in South Dakota concerning road blockades, and a couple other little news quickies. So first things first, this is so weird not having Christy here. It's just me talking and not sharing in the conversation at all. So if you guys have any questions, I am extra and I am chatting. So let me really pop out the chat here. And then I'm going to share my screen here in a second. Oh, I do have one question from the chat. RB is asking, does Christy have COVID-19? We're actually not sure yet. She's going to get tested soon, though. I think at the beginning of next week. That's the plan. She was going to get tested sooner, but something fell through. Thanks for the concern, though, RB. I know she'd appreciate it. So, switching over here. Sure, I have plenty of space. And there we go. Now you guys can see what I see. So, all right, let's go ahead and do this political compass thing, because I think it's really important to not just figure out if you're a leftist or a rightist, but you should also try to figure out like where you fall on the libertarian side or the authoritarian side of the political scales. So if you guys are all ready, this is what you're looking for, is this page right here. Give it a second. And then when you guys are done doing this with me, I'd like you to take a picture of the compass that you get. And then we're going to go on over here to the League of Extraordinary Atheists for Humanism Facebook page. And you guys push it down here so I can actually see what you guys all got. I think that'd be awesome. And you guys can see the URL right here, which I'll also be putting in the chat. So make sure you have those links up. And if you guys need to join, I have this page up, obviously, as you can see. So I can make sure I accept your member request right here on the spot. Here we go. All right. I'll go ahead and read the first part here. Just hold our hands through it. Before taking the test, please know that this isn't a survey and these aren't questions. They're propositions to question the logic of individual ones that irritate you is to miss the point. Some propositions are extreme and some are moderate. That's how we can show you whether you lean towards extremism or moderation on the compass. Your responses should not be overthought. Some of them are intentionally vague. Their purpose is to trigger reactions in the mind, measuring feelings and prejudices rather than detailed opinions on policy. All right, so we're going to go down here. Again, try not to overthink it. I know I'm probably going to, so yeah, just do your best to take it as vaguely as you think it's meant to be taken. I'm going to try to do the same. We're all not going to have the same thing. I'm excited to see what everyone has. So just follow along the best you can here. And if you guys are missing the link because it came in just a few minutes later, just go ahead and ask for it, or one of our moderators can repost it down here below. All right, here we go. First question here. If economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. If it's inevitable, I would say I strongly agree. It should serve humanity. I'd always support my country, whether it's right or wrong. I strongly disagree. I'm definitely against nationalism. If you haven't noticed, no one chooses his or her country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. Ooh, that's interesting. I think that's kind of a false premise. I do think that it's a little foolish to be proud of it just because of that. But it's okay to be proud of your country, like especially if you really like it. But I don't think you should like it just because this is your country. All right, moving on. Our race. Oh boy. Oh shit! I don't even want to finish this one. Our race has many superior qualities compared with other races. I strongly disagree. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Oh, that's also really interesting. I was thinking about that earlier today, in a whole different or slightly context. But I actually disagree with that. You can be allies, but it doesn't make them your friend, and it doesn't mean, like, if we join up with someone. Let me back it up just like 2 seconds here. Think of the Kurds and how we've been allies with them around Syria, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, all that. And we just drop them when it best suits us. That stuff like that makes me think, well, the enemy of our enemy isn't our friend. It's just it's a sad way to look at things. Anyways, moving on. Again, military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. Yes, sometimes. That was a fun one. They are vague, aren't they? I'm gonna say disagree, but not strongly disagree. There is now a worrying a fusion of information and entertainment. I don't think it really worries me, but it does. Things do get lost and trying to be entertaining rather than informative. So I'm going to put a disagree. But you can find you can find many outlets that really try to make the news entertaining and also try to give you the news. It's not impossible. So next page. All right, this should be pretty easy. These like they're short pages. All right, so now the economy. We're talking attitudes here, not the FTSE text. All right. People are ultimately divided more by class than by nationality. I think there's definitely a correlation there, but I'm going to lean towards agree on that. That was a tough one. These are all kind of tough. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. Oh, that's another fun one. Well, these are actually decently difficult questions. Well, it's I again disagree some. I'd rather lean towards fixing unemployment. Because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation. I strongly agree. Oh, there's the agree on top. That's what I want, guys. You can see that. From each according to his ability to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. Yes. I don't super agree with that. But I don't know how strongly I disagree with that, because I think if you can work, you should work. But also how we define work is just an entirely flawed concept, I think. This again coming from some kind of socialist here. So no, I'm gonna have to go with disagree. Like if there was a middle choice between strongly disagree and disagree, I'd pick that. The freer the market, the freer the people. That one's another funny one. I'm gonna slightly disagree on that one. I know it doesn't say slightly. Sorry, guys. I'm adding words in here to make myself feel better. No, because the more free the market, the more the market or private industries tend to have control over the economy. It's just like giving the government too much power. If you give the market or the industry too much power, it can lean towards authoritarian means either way. It's a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now bottled, branded consumer product. I actually strongly agree with that one. I think it should be. Water should be a basic human right, and I don't think it really should be sold. Land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold. May come as a shock to some of you, but I actually do agree with that. I am pretty left. For those of you who are new to the channel, hello people. It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society. I do agree with that. I think I strongly agree with that. I feel like it's worded in a way that's like it's trying to trick me. But again, you're not supposed to overthink it. So I'm trying my best to not overthink so many of these questions. Protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. Well, probably sometimes. Leaning towards the agree. Honestly, I don't know a lot about trade, so that's one of the things I could probably study up more on. The only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver the profit to its shareholders. I strongly disagree, obviously. No, a company needs to take care of their employees, should be the first thing on the list, because they're the ones who make the product that is to be delivered, and so on and so forth. The rich are too highly taxed. I, again, strongly disagree. I'm like 3 steps away from economy. Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. Again, strongly disagree. And that's just, for me, it's because healthcare is a human right, everyone? Because like we don't want anyone to get higher standard of medical care just because they're rich, right? I don't have a problem with rich people getting health care. Obviously, that is not the issue. It is them getting a higher standard of healthcare because they have more money, especially when we don't earn money equally in this country or most countries in the world. But I digress. So I'm glad you guys all came to hear me reflect on this political compass test this Friday night. And I hope you guys are actually doing this with me. Maybe you guys could let me know here in the chat. Smitty, Brantley, anyone else here? Let me know if you guys are doing this. Governments should penalize businesses that mislead the public. I'm going to say disagree, because I don't like governments to necessarily penalize businesses. I don't want an authoritarian government, but I don't think they should necessarily do business with those businesses, with those companies. You can just disincentivize them instead of actually penalize them. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. Strongly agree. All right, almost halfway through, guys. Abortion, when the woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal. I strongly disagree. All authority should be questioned. That is, again, so vague. Yes, but after you question it, that doesn't mean you just need to continuously question it all day, every day, all the freaking time. Like, don't be a conspiracy theorist. So yeah, I mean, I agree with that. You should always question authority. An eye for an eye, and tooth for a tooth. There's just all without eyes and all without teeth. So I disagree, but I'm not going to strongly disagree, because I do believe that there is a point to where you need to hit back. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. No, because history and art is kind of a public good, and I don't think it should be under government control, but I feel like it is a public good that we should incentivize theaters, museums, especially like history museums, or especially any kind of art. Really, I think it's just good for society. We learn a lot from it. It's part of education. We publicly fund education. We should just include that, plain and simple. So strongly disagree. Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. Oh shoot, I don't even really know what that word means, guys. You're gonna have to, like, doesn't that just mean like sorry, I'm distracted because I can't reach my button. Yeah, there we go. You guys get to watch me look up a word required by law. Yeah. Look at that. Thanks, Smitty. You're the best. It can compel you. Yes. Schools should not make classroom attendance. I disagree. Strongly disagree. No, it's kind of a hard one, because I was homeschooled for 8 years, so I have a little bit of a, like, I think like homeschooling should be an option, but also you need to be doing school even if you're homeschooled. So I'm going to strongly disagree. It should be mandatory by some means. Can you guys all still see my screen? Because it says my screen share is still up, but not just that I turned it off. It's working for me. What do you guys see? Nope. Okay. So I'm gonna close it, turn it back on. All right, let me know if you guys see it again. I'm going to move on. All people have their rights, but it is better for all of us that different sorts of people should keep to their own kind. Woo! Strongly disagree. There's nothing wrong with that question, right? Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. I mean, there's other means to do it, but depending on who you are and how you're raised and just how you know how to raise a kid, you're going to feel like you need to. And I don't like to just look at Americans and how we live our lives, but I try to respect other cultures and how they. Like, I don't think you need to abuse a child. I know I've spanked my kids a couple of times, and I always feel bad about it. But yeah, I'm gonna say agree, just to kind of be charitable. But I'm really not for it. But I also don't want to tell people how to live their lives. Again, as long as they're like not beating the shit out of their kids, because that's really awful. It's natural for children to keep some secrets from their children. I strongly agree. Yeah, that's supernatural. Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense. Strongly agree. The prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generation to find jobs. Wow, yeah, I don't know. I feel like this shouldn't have been such a hard question. I don't think that's the main thing of school. I'm going to try not to overthink it too much, and I am going to say disagree, because I think there's more to school than just trying to generate jobs and how to find them. People serious and inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. Ooh, strongly disagree. It's rough. The people too, though. The most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline. Oh, wow. I'm going to disagree. But I feel like there's other words that discipline can mean, and like constructive criticism, real good. So I'm going to just keep that on disagree. There are no savage and civilized peoples. There are only different cultures. That could be like right there in the middle, really. Because there are some cultures, even throughout history, not even just today, that are like savage cultures. Obviously, so that's, I'm going to go with a disagree. History and the world just disagrees with that statement. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society support. See, now that's a hard one, because if you are able to work and refuse the opportunity, should not expect. The way they worded it, I agree. I feel like Christy would have a lot to say about that. I think she would really be upset about how vague some of these questions are. All right, when you are troubled, it's better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. I mean, I agree. I mean, if you can do that, I think that's great. Excuse my yawn. Sorry, everyone. First generation immigrants can never be fully integrated within their new country. That's strongly disagree. I don't think that's true. I think that's kind of what countries are, just collections of people. So it kind of depends on the country and the culture that you're in. whether you can be fully integrated or not. You can move into a really diverse society and feel more at home than you did at your old normal home. What's good for the most successful corporations is always ultimately good for all of us. Strongly disagree. No broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. I disagree. I think we should absolutely have public funded broadcasting institutions like PBS. It's awesome. I'm hesitant to say strongly disagree just because I think that's something that the government, you don't see my my quotation fingers, I think like you don't want them to control all of the say, like freedom of press, right? It's true, not even English fully integrated into Brantley made a really good point. I got to say, it's true. Not even the English have fully integrated yet into Native American culture. Thank you, Vibrantly Brantley, for bringing that point to the table, hammering it home. Solid point. Okay. And how you see the wider society. The wider, I said wider, just for context. All right. Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism. I actually strongly agree. If you see what's happened with the Patriot Act and beyond, and just this past week, we were passing stuff with the FBI to where they can look at your search history just by contacting your provider and be like, hey, give us this person's search history. That's about it. And it passed by, like, I think one vote. And Bernie Sanders did not show up. So part of that is on him. So that sucks. Moving on, a significant advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that delay progress in the democratic political system. Listen to me. Sorry, guys. A significant advantage of a one-party system. I think that's a disadvantage. So I'm going to go against the premise and disagree. Although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried. That's another strongly disagree. The death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes. Christy would hit me in the head for this. I agree. That's something where we disagree slightly. I think for the most serious crimes, really emphasis on that most. If there's a chance someone can be treated rather than punished, I always go for that. But I also understand that in this world that we live in, you can't always fix someone. In a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. I disagree. Disagree with that. Abstract art that doesn't represent anything shouldn't be considered art at all. I don't think so. Disagree. In criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. Strongly disagree. It is a waste of time to try to rehabilitate some criminals. Again, I agree. Just slightly. Wish there was a wider range of multiple choice. The business person and the manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artist. Okay, I disagree. Disagree because I mean, do you want a black and white life or do you want it in full color? That's kind of how I view that question. And color is pretty important. Mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. Oh, strongly disagree. So strongly disagree. Multinational companies are unethically exploiting the plant genetic resources of developing countries. Yeah, I strongly agree. I mean, just look at the like logging companies and oil companies, obviously. I just feel bad for having to like that because it's so damn true. Smitty says down below, I mean, in a way, everybody's first duty is to be a homemaker for themselves. Well, yeah, I like that, Smitty. Go you. Make your own home. Making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. Yeah, I disagree. It's just like saying just doing what everyone else is doing is a sign of maturity. Yeah, I disagree. All right, 2 more pages, guys. Bear with me. Hope this isn't the worst thing you've watched all day. If you've got through okay, you'll find these propositions on religion and priests. Great, well, I probably will. Astrology accurately explains many things. Strongly disagree. You cannot be moral without being religious. Strongly disagree. Charity is better than Social Security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. Strongly disagree. You need Social Security too. And it doesn't need to be just like what we define as Social Security, but you need a kind of Social Security to help those who are disadvantaged. Because you can't depend on everyone to just charity. It just doesn't work like that. No duh. I didn't need to say 5 sentences about it. Sorry, everyone. Some people are naturally unlucky. I don't know. That's a weird one. Disagree. Yeah, no, strongly disagree. It is important that my child's school instills religious values. Again, strongly disagree. Every single one, strongly disagree. All right. I feel like they're going to put me somewhere on the campus that entire page. Finally, a look at sex. Ooh, oh, ooh, ah. My first words for the sex page. You guys ready? Sex outside marriage is usually immoral. I strongly disagree because as long as it's consensual, see, it said sex and morals in the same sentence. No, because yeah, I'm a big whatever you call it. For sure. Oh, whoa, no, no. I think that as long as there's consent, it is amoral. It's not a moral issue. It's amoral, the whole topic. All right, moving on. A same-sex couple in a stable, loving relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. Should not be excluded. I strongly agree. Pornography depicting consenting adults should be illegal for the adult population. Okay, strongly agree. I think the pornographic industry could probably use some cleaning up because you hear a lot of horror stories, but also there's a lot of people happy with what they do. So I think it should be safe and legal. What goes on in a private bedroom between 2 consenting adults is no business of the state. Yeah, strongly agree. Definitely on the left side of the line for all this. No one can feel naturally homosexual. Wow, strongly disagree. These days, openness about sex has gone too far. I strongly disagree. I think we could be way more open about sex, and it'd be easier for people to understand love and sex relationships. Yeah, you don't mean yourself back. Pushing his head at the left side. Reading the post envelope. All right, now let's see where you stand. Actually click it. There we go. All right, so I will let you guys read through most of this yourself. I checked it out a little bit before I did this tonight. So let me just kind of breeze through some of it. They're just talking about the political compass. And let's just scroll down and look at it. We got the left, we got the right, we got the libertarian side, we got the authoritarian side, we got the economic scale and the social scale. Where you lean on policies and how you want it done. That's kind of how I look at it. And scrolling down, we'll see Stalin over here, Hitler over there, which may be a surprise to some people. Maybe not some people who watch this show, but like everyone thinks Hitler and Stalin are like in the same same spot, right? And that's just not how it is. Martin Luther King's actually around here by Gandhi. You'll have Malcolm X. Malcolm X is, I think, just further down left, down here. I think you guys can see my cursor. I hope you guys can see my cursor. And Bernie Sanders is actually, I think, around here. They don't have all them. They're just ones that I've memorized. Oh yeah, and then there's Friedman, Thatcher. I didn't care. That's why I didn't say it. Didn't care. Sorry, guys. Ooh, look at that. All right. Way down here. And libertarian. I feel like this kind of down there where like Kyle Kalinske would be, the libertarian leftist that I love to watch every day, pretty much, that I watch news. Personalized political compass certificate showing your own position is available online. Pictures of test. All right, check that out at a different time. Yeah, so there, cool. There's that. I'm going to try to ship a window for printing. I think maybe I can just copy it. There we go. And then I'll post it over here. Watch me struggle to spell. Should have taken it off screen share. Here's what we got. All right, so we'll just copy. There we go. Cool. So do that. That way I can see what you guys got, and I'll be checking it out here over the next couple of days. Cool. There's that. So I hope someone else joined me for that. I hope that wasn't just me talking to myself the whole time and Smitty and Brantley just giggling at me. But if that's all it was, that's okay. I still had a good time, guys. I just, truth be told, I probably liked the attention. It's whatever. And RB's still here too. Thanks, man. All right, so between not okay, and not just telling me that I'm causing problems because of the screen share. I'm very sorry. All right, so moving on. let's go ahead and we will move on to the next topic. All right. And I'm waiting to see, make sure we are on. Yes, new breadcrumbs. Cool. Sorry, everyone. Takes a second for it to pop up for me. Thank you. And new breadcrumbs. Okay, so I'm not 100% sure if this passed. So we're going to look at this together real quick. I'm not going to do a screen share thing because I don't want to mess things up again. So it says, this is from CBS News. The House passed a measure Friday to temporarily allow both remote voting by proxy and official remote committee proceedings during the coronavirus pandemic. The nearly party line vote, 217 to 189, means that a member present at the Capitol would be able to cast a vote on behalf of up to 10 absent colleagues. The pandemic has risen concerns, yada yada, we know that. Republicans, yada yada, we know that. So the House is taking a vote on a massive coronavirus relief bill. This is the fifth one, I believe. It's at least the fourth. So that right off the bat frustrates me. And I'll get into that here in a second. So the House is taking a vote on a massive coronavirus relief bill, although the $3 trillion legislation is unlikely to grant any traction in the Republican-controlled Senate. We are presenting a plan to do what is necessary to address the corona crisis. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said at the Capitol when she announced the legislation on Wednesday. She said the bill's priorities were opening our economy safely and soon, honoring our heroes, and then putting much needed money into pockets of Americans. I'll read just a little more of this. The House vote comes as the unemployment rate is rising to levels unseen since the Great Depression, with millions of Americans out of work or furloughed. There's around 30 million Americans that are unemployed right now, and it's that's a lot. I think it's like a 25% unemployment rate, which again, that hasn't been seen since the Great Depression. The text of the bill spans more than 1,800 pages, and that is super true because I pulled that up, and it's really, really long, really long. I'm sorry to announce, but I did not get to read all 1,800 pages. It includes assistance to state and local governments. I have a breakdown of that here in a second. The bill is known as the Health and Economic Recovery. I don't know how to say that word. Omnibus Emergency Solutions Act, or HEROES Act, if you guys have heard of that. The bill includes provisions to assist farmers, protect renters and homeowners from evictions and foreclosures, and extend family and medical leave provisions previously approved by Congress. The legislation would also provide relief for essential workers, such as aviation, rail, Amtrak workers, as well as work visas. Wow, you guys are catching me yawning all night. Visas for immigrants. I don't want to read the whole gosh darn article. Pramila Jayapal, a pretty good progressive. I'm a fan. She said that she's not going to vote for the bill. And AOC says this is a tough bill because it doesn't do enough with healthcare for one, and also this one has a lot of handouts too. So I'm just going to stop reading the article, and I'm going to go to my notes real quick because this is what's frustrating. So we have $875 billion in cash for local and state governments, which is good. And it also includes $20 billion for each tribal nations and for U.S. territories, which is also nice. I don't think it's quite enough, but I haven't looked into it too much, honestly. Also, $75 billion goes towards mortgage relief, another good thing. $100 billion in assistance to renters, $25 billion to the Postal Service. Again, that's not quite enough. That's just another Band-Aid on their tough situation. And $3.6 billion to help with elections. And I think that mostly goes towards getting everyone a paper ballot for November, so they can send it in by mail. And I heard that Trump is very much not for that, because they want to make sure everyone gets a ballot like a week and a half, I think, or maybe it was a month and a half. I can't remember. Oh shoot, with some time before the election, so everyone has time to send them in. And of course, the Republican talking point is, well, if you give people that much time, you're just leaving it open for fraudulent votes, which is strange, weird, whatever. And something that's kind of hypocritical there is Donald Trump always votes by mail. So, right? That's kind of what it makes me think. So there are some good things. There are some decent things in this bill, and some of that relief, and it comes in the form of another $1,200 cash payment to most Americans, which they desperately need. And I think that it also includes, I think the $500 again for each child. So I think each family, might have a limit though of $6,000. So there's that tidbit. I think it's important. But there are more handouts to corporations, to Cobra, the medical companies, insurance companies, and it frustrates me because they've already gotten a bailout, and obviously that frustrates me. But it's not just because, well, they've already gotten money. It's just because I don't think they needed the money in the first place. I think we need to just give money to the people, and if there are essential jobs, then you work with those essential jobs in the safest way possible, and everyone has money to spend on those goods, right? And it keeps the economy going. It really is, like a Republican would say, economics 101. You put money in people's hands, and you keep the product going that are essential, then you do have an economy that is moving, which is important. But it's not the most important thing, right? We need to slow down the economy. We need to more or less put a halt on it so we don't kill ourselves during this pandemic, and we don't leave everyone who is more vulnerable to it just out in the open. And out in the open is exposing ourselves to it and easily exposing them to what we've exposed ourselves to. So there are better things we can do than this bill, and it doesn't take 1,800 effing pages, right? So I was listening to Kim Iverson today, and she pointed out some really good things. One being that Bernie Sanders and Kamala Harris and one other dude that I forget his name. Sorry, other dude. There's these three moderate to progressive candidates who are pushing for a $2,000 a month stimulus package. It's basically an emergency UBI to help stimulate the economy. And I'm not sure I'm not sure if this is the bill where everyone who makes under 100,000 gets that $2,000. I think that's, yeah, that this is the one. Everyone who makes under $100,000 would get this $2,000. And if you're a couple, then you would get the $400,000 as long as you make under that $200,000 mark together. So you get this $2,000 to $4,000 a month until the crisis ends, plus 3 months after that. That would be a really wonderful bill to pass, because think of it this way. That doesn't cover all of your bills, right? So if you're working at all, that really should help you make ends meet. If you are kind of working full time though, because you're an essential worker and maybe you're also getting that hazard pay on top of it, you are going to be making bank for you, right? So I know a lot of Republicans are going to really act like this is a real big deal. Like, well, they don't need it, and they shouldn't have it. We should means test it more. But you can't really give people too much money during an emergency pandemic like situation like this, because even just looking at my personal individual case here, I have debt that I can't keep up with since I can't work my other job doing my martial art thing, right? So this $2,000 extra a month would be extremely helpful, not just because I'll have more money to spend on video games, which I will probably spend $50 on video games out of $2,000. Not a big deal. That helps the economy anyways. But the big deal, real big deal is, especially then, is you can give that to the bank if you owe money on a mortgage or rent or your car or your credit cards. It goes back up, right? That's how we keep the economy going. So they don't even keep that money. If we did this, if we did this emergency UBI, $2,000 a month, we wouldn't have to bail out the banks. We wouldn't have to bail out the health insurance companies. We would still need extra money going towards health insurance, because that $2,000 like pays for like one emergency room visit, and then the rest of your family's fucked, right? So that's not enough for healthcare, but it's hardly enough for everything else. Even if you're still working full time or near it, it's not enough for normal people to have just an extra $2,000 a month for maybe 6 months. And I do believe that this back pays back to like March when this started. So if this would pass, which is not super likely, I can't really say one way or the other, but I'm not super hopeful for it. But this would just be a better way to go about things. If everyone had this money to spend, it makes its way back up to the businesses that we bailed out first. And I know I've said it half 100 times already that we need to not bail out the banks. We need to freeze the banks. This is the other part of what Kim Iverson was saying today. And I know I've said it before too. You freeze the banks. You freeze just fucking everything. That way your landlord doesn't owe the banks. You don't owe your landlord. No one's getting fucked, right? You just freeze it. Everyone has to pay again when the economy opens back up. But people can still afford food when they don't have a job, and they're getting enough stimulus to just basically pay for necessities. $2,000 is not a lot of money a month. If that's all some people are getting, that's not enough. We'll still need food pantries. But this is a better way to spend the money. And again, it trickles up. You don't need to have two separate bailouts for the top and the bottom. That's just silly. That's an awful way to spend our money. it drives me nuts every time I have to have this conversation with Christy, and it drives me nuts to have it by myself here without Christy. So there's that. There was another point I wanted to make. Going along with the mortgage freeze and so on and so forth. One thing that Kim Iverson pointed out, and we need to get her back on the show sometime soon. That would be fun and interesting. Is you freeze the banks, you freeze everything, right? And you bail out the bottom. And now whoever's holding the bag at the end of the pandemic, right? Whoever just got fucked, just bail them out. Because someone may be left holding the bag. But you don't do it at the beginning, right? We don't bail out the banks like we did in 2008 and be like, all right, hey, you're safe. And then the bank's, cool. Thank you for paying everyone's payments. By the way, everyone, you still owe your payments. Okay, we're taking your houses too. We don't need to do that. We should have learned 12 years ago. We don't need to do anything like that. We need to bail out the bottom, and then we'll keep the economy going, right? And then any corporation who got fucked out of that deal, it is way cheaper to just bail them out afterwards, or just keep them, do it in smaller doses. We don't need to do it the stupid way we've been doing it. I work at a grocery store and I teach people how to kick people. This shit is not that hard to figure out. God dang. All right. Nacha, if you can please move us on to the next thing. That would be wonderful. All right. So, Sue. This is an interesting story. I may screen share again. I'm sorry, Nacha. Let's have people see the text that I'm working with. All right. Open it up so you can see the ads. Cool. Thanks, Guardian. All right. South Dakota governor threatens to sue over Sue's coronavirus roadblocks. The Republican governor, Christy, from what I've heard, she just does not respect the tribal nations whatsoever. And why do you need to respect tribal nations? Because they are sovereign nations. That is the key point here. They're sovereign nations. They are not necessarily part of the United States, and they don't have to abide by the same rules that we all do. We need to abide by theirs because we have treaties with these sovereign nations. It's so clean cut and dry to me. I don't understand why we have so many problems with pipelines and roadblocks, because it's just in black and white to me. It's really, there's not a lot of gray area. And that's coming from Gray Skeptic. Okay. I'm going to read just a little bit of this real quick. Native American tribes in South Dakota have vowed to keep operating checkpoints to protect their people from the coronavirus, despite threats of legal action from the Republican state governor. The Cheyenne River Sioux and the Oglala Sioux tribes, sorry if I butchered that, installed multiple checkpoints on roads leading to their reservations in early April as part of each sovereign nation's comprehensive emergency response to minimal spread of COVID-19. They say restricting non-essential visitors and monitoring who comes in and out of the territory will aid contact tracing and are essential tools in the fight against the global pandemic. And we've seen other countries do similar things. This is, again, if you don't agree with how they're doing something, that's beyond the point. And I do agree with what they're doing. I think it's fine. I think these precautions are necessary, especially since they live in poor areas and like their reservations are not well equipped because we don't work with them very well. They need to take extra precautions to keep their people safe. They need that. And we can't tell a sovereign nation how to fucking run their nation, right? It's again, it seems so simple. Skipping a little bit here. Yeah, last Friday, Governor Christy threatened to sue the tribes if, quotations, if the checkpoints are not removed within the next 48 hours, the state will take necessary legal action, she wrote. She said in a tweet, today I sent letters to two South Dakota tribes asking them to immediately cease interfering with or regulating traffic on U.S. and state highways and remove all travel checkpoints, because she uses the. I'm going to stop screen sharing. Here we go. Back here. Hi everyone. Um, she was using the excuse of emergency vehicles needing through without being vetted, and she's worried about them being turned away at these checkpoints. But again, like the way we built our roads around their nations, the way we built our pipelines around their nations, we cause these problems ourselves. I'll give you an example if you don't remember. The Dakota Access Pipeline, DAPL, when that was a big thing a couple years back, when AOC first got on the scene and went and protested. Tulsi Gabbard was there, Bernie Sanders, a lot of good progressives went and helped there. I found out later that there was a more white and like not sovereign nation, white like neighborhood nearby that they were going to put the pipeline through, and the people there were like, "Fuck no, we don't want an oil pipeline going through our area. No." So instead of like, well, if you guys want, if America wants oil, we're gonna have to put this pipeline through America. They're like, all right, well, I think of something else, and we put it through Standing Rock, and that's again, that's a sovereign nation. So we intruded on another nation's land to put our pipeline through their land, through their natural resources, and we put it through some of their water supply, and they were worried that it was going to burst, and it did. It ruined some of their water, so that was great. We cause these problems ourselves, and it's not necessarily on the individual because we don't have a media that focuses on these kind of important stories, like the Dakota Access Pipeline. Like, you likely heard of it, but you probably didn't see private security from the Dakota Access Pipeline, like literally use water cannons on protesters in the freezing cold and blow the skin off people's hands, right? We don't see stuff like that, so it's hard to empathize with it when you don't hear these stories, you don't get to see what's really going on for as long as it's going on. And then we get, I brought that up because we have roads, we have highways through or near their nations. They don't want those there. They want their land that were promised by treaties. It's sickening. It makes me really, really angry. every time we have to talk about anything with any um, native tribes and their sovereign nations, because we do here what we do in other countries. We go in others into other sovereign nations, and we do what we think is best for our economy. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating. I hate it, and I always feel like I need to bring it up. I don't have any real connections with any tribes. I'd like to have any representatives on here. I know we've had Nokosochi on here, the raging atheist. He was wonderful. I'd love to have you back on sometime, buddy. Especially if you have anything to talk about concerning these issues, or if anyone does. I want to give them more voice, because God damn, they need it, because we don't have enough eyes on these kinds of situations, and there's just, again, coming from Great Skeptic, these are just black and white issues. Like, we shouldn't be telling them how to run their borders, or fucking with their natural resources. We just shouldn't, and it's just incredibly infuriating. Hi, I'm Great Skeptic. I'm here to rant. Where's Christy, guys? You guys just hear me bitch the whole time. We need other things going on. Okay. Let's move on to the next topic. Next topic is just a quick series of other topics, and there's really just a couple. Sorry, I saw someone posted something funny on our page here. So make sure you get on the League of Extraordinary Atheists to see what Steve and Bauman posted on my political compass. Basically got a tic-tac-toe. Moving on. I'm sorry, everyone. I get distracted real easily, and I hope you are amused by it. All right. So one thing that happened, which blew my mind a little bit, but it shouldn't have. Joe Biden made a comment concerning the Tara Reade scandal during a virtual town hall on MSNBC. The presumptive Democratic presidential nominee urged those who believe allegations made against him by former staffer Tara Reade to vote their heart, adding, "I wouldn't vote for me if I believed Tara Reade." And yeah, neither would I, dude. Neither would I. This is not a new thing with Joe Biden. If he comes up against any pushback on anything, really, he's like, "Look, just vote for another candidate." He's just like, "Oh, then I'm obviously not your guy." Like, that's always his pushback. You're like, "All right, well, if you're annoyed with me, I don't like you anyways. Go away." He's just he's something else. He really cracks me up, and this is just not the guy that we need for for our Democratic nominee. It's just it's funny and it's annoying at the same time. Again, I'm sorry about myself. I woke up extra early because of Bird. Not making that up. Bird did it. Bird. Hashtag fuck you, Bird. All right, and there was another thing I wanted to look at, but I don't really have any information on it right now. The Julian Assange case is kind of moving forward. I don't know what's happening with it yet, but I'm going to try to have that for you guys next week. Being known now, we will be covering some Julian Assange stuff next week. Just a little update. And that's about all I have for you guys tonight. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching me do a political compass test. I thought that would be fun, and I was really, really hoping that you guys would join in on the fun. So I'm going to try to make sure real quick that I didn't miss anybody. I'm trying to get into the League of Extraordinary Atheists here. And all right, well, no one's posted, but you guys better do something later. Follow along, do this, back it up, watch me talk during the whole thing again. We're going to go ahead and get ready to close up shop for the night. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us as you do every Friday night. You guys are really, really awesome. Smitty's asking, like, how early? I woke up at about 6:15 this morning, and it is 11:45 here now. So, I mean, it could be earlier, but I'm used to getting up at like 8. Unless I don't work, and then I'm used to getting up at like 9 or 10. Hate mornings. So sorry for bitching about early mornings to any first shifters here. Sincerely sorry about myself. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for watching. You know, and I guess we'll see you next week. You guys all stay humanist, for God's sake. Thanks for watching.